Boo. Maybe.
Hey.
Oh, hey.
Do you have I know this is kind of a prerogative that came down from Cindy, is that right? Kind of from like the board member Everett, right? Dr. Ward?
Yep.
Did they give you was it like a what the purpose of these interviews is? Is there like they give you a list of questions or just kind of like get their story? Because not all of them. Okay. Because only one person submitted like that questionnaire.
Yeah,
so
and it's the one person that we already knew their story.
Oh, okay. All right. So we'll just dig into his story then.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tell me about your story kind of thing, and then talk to me about your involvement with the March Dimes and how your fraternity.
Okay, and then I guess we could just dig into their story if we need any specific bits of it that sound interesting that we can get.
Yeah, I feel like we have a lot of dads. Who's this?
I think there was 6 total asked, or 4. Or I don't know. I think we got 3 responses or 4.
No, I think it's only 3 guys. Denzel, Thomas, and Terrence. Terrence has 2 email addresses.
Oh, okay. Cool. Great. Okay. I just want to make sure we had a strategy going in. Do you want me to ask the questions or?
What am I doing? Well, we can take turns.
Sounds good. All right. Yeah, I guess we'll stay on for 4 minutes.
Are you opening and closing this meeting, or are you recording it straight through?
That's what I was gonna say. I mean, I don't mind just letting it run and recording it the whole time.
Okay, cool.
I also have those collective impact videos. I have those. I mean, I can work on that if we want.
Yeah, I think we need some direction on what we're doing with them, because I know it's similar to. So, like right now, just put them up on YouTube and send them to Megan.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna cut out. Yeah.
Isadora's got canceled yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we're rescheduling.
Yeah, I feel like there's.
Oh, wait a minute. The 11:30 is not this. 11:30 is a CI interview. So it's
yes.
2 dads, and then I guess we can stop the recording. How did I get to April?
2 dads and then stop the recording. Oh yeah. Oh, I mean, I think there's a gap in between the two interviews.
Yeah, there is a pretty good gap. Okay, I thought they were all 3.
Oh yeah.
Dads.
There's a gap, and I think I added extra time for that, right? I think I added like 45 minutes or 15-minute gap. Maybe that was it, just in case it went over.
10:45 to 11:15, and then 11:30.
Yeah, that was just in case there was the one interview went over. So
yeah, that's fine.
Maybe if he goes a long time, we'll stay in just one big recording. But
yeah. And then Terrence is tomorrow.
Yeah. And do you want me to work on these interviews as well? The fraternity brothers, or?
I'm guessing this is for Father's Day. We can offer it up for Father's Day. So let's. I don't mind working on editing, unless if you're busy with the other stuff.
Yeah. Well, wherever you think. If you've got, I don't know what else you have on your plate right now, we can work on both of them.
Yeah.
There's
rescheduled. He said it were May 26th. So I guess there's no rush on these interviews.
What's that?
So I guess there's no rush on the CI stuff.
All right, he's in the waiting room. Whenever you're ready, I'll let him in. Alexa, snooze for an hour and a half.
That's going to help.
All right, I'm gonna let him in right now.
Good morning.
Morning. Long time no see.
Yes, it has been.
How are you doing? How's it going? How's your beautiful family?
You know, they are well. I always tell people they're doing better than me. That's how it should be, right?
That's the goal, right?
Yeah.
So I have to do a little audio check. So I have my sound on from my computer coming through, and every now and then it kind of goes out a little bit, and I didn't want to put my headphones in. So can you all hear me clearly enough?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds great.
So who got me pulled into this other than Ward?
Dr. Ward.
We can blame Dr. Ward.
Now that we're recording. Yeah, all right. So Chris and I'll just we're gonna go off camera the way this Zoom recording works. You'll probably just see our Zoom background photos. But if you can, whenever you're talking, just look directly into your webcam and not at the, I know it's gonna be like natural to kind of look at the photos. So just maintain eye contact with the webcam. And we'll go from there. So basically, we're just going to ask you to kind of tell your story. I know we already have it on, but if you can give us an update on how everybody's doing, I think that would be really cool. That we could kind of intercut some of the stuff from years past, and then then we'll go from there, and then we'll talk about the partnership between our organization, your organization, and stuff like that. And then I think the only other thing we'd ask is that if you have your email program open, just close that out, maybe silence your iPhone, whatever.
Yep, that may help.
Any of those bells and whistles that go off.
Me do that right now. I'm glad you reminded me of that, because I would not want to have that interference. Okay, let me just. Okay. Alrighty, I think I'm good now.
Okay, so Kenley and I are going to go off camera.
Okay.
Alrighty, so first question is always easiest. How do you say and spell your name?
My name is Denzel Fleming. That's Densel Fleming, Fleming.
All right, so why don't you go ahead and tell us your story, how you're connected to the March of Dimes, what the March of Dimes mission means to you, and tell us about Lauren, and we'll go from there.
So the March of Dimes is, the experience with the March of Dimes is one of my favorite in terms of volunteering and partnership and support. It's interesting within itself because it goes back much farther than when our daughter, Lauren, was born in 2004. It actually goes back to when I was actually in first grade. Growing up in Mississippi, my elementary school, you really had this program where they would bring in the dime cards, and it was a way of getting the kids at our elementary school involved in volunteering. And we would get those dime cards and we would take them home, and we would ask our relatives to donate dimes. And that was what I knew about the March of Dimes, even at age 6. And so continuing the volunteerism until college, and then ended up joining my fraternity Alpha Phi Alpha, and knew that that was a major partnership with my fraternity. It allowed me to kind of keep that volunteerism going. And so, but I was able to kind of be reintroduced to the March of Dimes much later, but in a very different sense. And so when I certainly, became an adult, that was a go-to organization to really partner with, because I had experience with it up until that time back since I was first grade. And so that created the experience and the introduction at a volunteer level with the March of Dimes. And of course, no one could have ever imagined that I would have a very different and a real experience with not only the March of Dimes, but moreover its mission when our daughter Lauren was born in 2004. And so that created a really different kind of dynamic that I had with the March of Dimes. Again, to then be more involved with the inner workings of the organization by way of partnership, education, and advocacy.
I see what you mean about your audio kicking out every once in a while. I think just the last two sentences we lost a little bit. So I don't know if you want to try to retell that part of the story.
So let me do this. If I can, let me see if I can join by phone.
Okay.
And that way we won't have the interruption. So if I can get the dial in, if you can give me a moment to do that.
Sure. It was going great just up until the end. Everything else was coming through great.
Give me a moment here. I apologize for that.
Oh, no worries. We're used to all the Zoom hiccups these days. So.
This meeting is being recorded.
Oh.
I think you're on mute.
Okay, is that better?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Okay. So you want me to kind of pick up on the last?
Maybe now, just because we're going to have it's going to be a different audio quality. Maybe we could just have you kind of give a synopsis of what you just said, which was, I think that was a good answer. So if you could just kind of take it from the top, that would be great.
Great, perfect. Okay. So if I had to describe my relationship to not only the March of Dimes and the mission of March of Dimes, it really extends back way before the intensity of the relationship with the March of Dimes. After my daughter was born, Lauren, was born in 2004. It actually, for me, goes back to when I was first grade. I was at the age of 6. And at the time, my elementary school, would bring these dime cards there, and they would give these dime cards to all of the students, and my siblings and I will be so excited every year to get those dime cards, because that gave us a way to, in some sense, be competitive. But we were able to take those cards home, and we would collect dimes for my uncles and my aunts and my grandparents, and we fill those dime cards up. And that was the extent of what I knew about the March of Dimes at that time. But growing up and eventually going to college and eventually becoming a member of my fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha, I learned at that time that Project Alpha was big, and which was a program that we actually had with the March of Dimes. And it allowed me to continue my relationship with the March of Dimes by way of volunteering. And it was there where I learned about what it really meant to volunteer for organizations with good cause, with good mission, with good purpose, that was closer to our community than we thought at the time. And so it continued. So when I became a young adult, I kept my relationship intact with the organization. Of course, what we all know today of having to volunteer with the March of Dimes being the biggest opportunity is the March for Babies. It was just such a big opportunity. But no one could have ever guessed or could have ever imagined that it would take upon a different meaning when our daughter was born prematurely on February 2nd, 2004. And that took upon a different meaning. And that was when I really got more involved and more ingrained in the inner workings of the organization and understood it better to see it in works of education, science and research, advocacy. All of that was a big part of March of Dimes that I really got a chance to become more involved with. And it really mirrored what I believed in, and it gave a different view for me personally of what it meant to volunteer for an organization that was that connected to the community.
Okay, great. Can you tell me, you touched on it a little bit. Talk to me about, when the March of Dimes mission really hit home with Lauren.
When the March of Dimes, if you can repeat your question.
Oh yeah. Like when the March of Dimes mission kind of really hit home for you and your wife when Lauren was born early.
I guess we just want to know, like, if you could just kind of recap the Lauren story, the story that you've told us in the ambassador video that we filmed years ago.
Right.
The story of her birth and what went wrong and everything.
So, Lauren's story is, as we quickly learned, that it was not that uncommon for people of color or in certain segments of the population. Our story started out, which is no different than most. For us, it was our first pregnancy. It was going according to plan. Of course, you do all of the right things. You go to your doctor's appointments. I was there. I would go and support Nikki, my wife, in getting her appointments and just wanted to be involved. And when it's your first child, of course, you're nervous about everything. All right. You just want to make sure you're eating right, you're exercising correctly, you're following your medical advice. But even in all of that, it still ended up in that when we first learned that we were pregnant in 2003, and then in 2004, January 29th, to learn that my wife was feeling some discomfort, and going to our OBGYN and learning that my wife was in preterm labor, and was immediately rushed to the hospital because at that time we weren't sure what was happening. And of course, as you can imagine, all of these emotions are raging, and you're at one time going from what you think is a healthy pregnancy and then going to one that is at risk. Initially was told that Nikki was going to be on bed rest for the remaining of the pregnancy. Now, to put this into context, this was January 29th. Lauren was actually, her original due date was May 7th. So that is a big time gap that we had to mentally adjust for. And from January 29th, when she initially went into the hospital, and then immediately was told that on February 2nd, that it was not a sustainable pregnancy, and Lauren would have to be delivered. And so that was a trying experience, to say the least. But it also put us on a journey of making it more about than ourselves, right? We quickly realized that we weren't the only one, but we also recognized the value of having support systems. And when you're looking for support systems, you're just trying to find out answers What could I have done differently? What do I do now? How do I navigate through this whole medical hospital system with not really knowing what's going on, how it happened, but also at the same time keeping our eyes on our child, who again was our first. And so, getting through that, and then Lauren eventually coming home in June, which was much later, being born at 2 pounds, 1 ounce, and then losing some of that body weight and going down to 1 pound and 14 ounces. It was an experience, and having to go through PDA surgeries and learning to breathe and learning to suckle and all of those things was a learning experience. In that time, though, we also saw certain things that were concerning, just the inequalities that we saw with people of color. We began to learn about the research and saw a lot of the alarming statistics. But the March of Dimes, though, really pulled through because there were a couple of things that stood out for us. That the March of Dimes was very serious about education and information and awareness. That the amount of dollars that they were given, of money that they raised to support research was amazing. And advocacy, and I mean a very integrated advocacy, which meant that they, as an organization, were partnered very well with the research community and hospitals across the country who really knew who they were, but they were also wanting to partner with them to make sure that those families who was in those vulnerable populations, in those vulnerable states who were experiencing what we had just experienced for the very first time, that they were supported and that we had access to information. And for us, that meant even getting more involved with our local chapter of the March of Dimes, the Greater Piedmont Division of the March of Dimes. And we knew who the executive director was, and just had to own up to the fact that we were no different. We were not in an uncommon place, but there were a lot of things that we could do on the journey. And so we took a hold of that, made a real difference, and used our voices in a way to where others could see that they too weren't as different, but that would be a way that they can that they could join a common journey and learn how to best support themselves to be better and to make things better for themselves, their child, and their family at large.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I'm a big fan of how the March of Dimes is shifting more now towards health equity and kind of highlighting the disparities and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm glad that you touched on that too. So thanks. Can you talk to me
Absolutely.
now? Can you think back on your time as the ambassador family and just what was that like? You got to meet presidents, you traveled around the country, talking about the March of Dimes mission and sharing your story. And so what was that experience like?
So, the greatest part of the experience, once I pull away from all of the things that it takes to get prepared to be an ambassador family, the preparation, the knowing the rules and the guidelines of getting the mission out, understanding the mission, and in some senses, really having to connect what the mission does personally, what it meant personally for us. That took some time in getting our arms around it. We couldn't think too long about what adjustments would need to be made for our day-to-day lives. We had to either be on the journey to educate and to bring a sense of awareness and advocacy to it, or you could think yourself out of it. And so the mission, as we saw it, was much bigger than we were. We felt that it was more important to get out what we experienced in a way that that others could somehow glean a sense of encouragement from their own experiences. And So in that respect, the preparation was tough, as it should have been. But I can tell you that the biggest joy and fulfillment, if there could be joy out of this experience, was seeing that transformation of the heavy hearts and the heavy minds of families who were right there in the thick of it, hearing our words, and you could see the manifestation of the connection of our words and how they were using that to be empowered and to come up to you to talk to you after you were speak and wanting to engage more, them being led to be more involved in their own communities, wherever they were, because we would travel all over the country, from California to New York and everywhere in between, as we would often say. It was, from that perspective, we felt like none of what we had experienced was in vain, and that was a much greater purpose. That was a reason why we had gone through what we had gone through, but that it was also important not to waste the experience. And wasting the experience for us would have meant not accepting the invitation and the challenge that the March of Dimes had granted to us to be the ambassador family. And that would have been a waste, because when we think about it in hindsight, we think about how many families that we met along the journey who were actually helped, who had someone within reach that was a real live family who they can say, well, how did you? Why did you? How did you muster up the energy to go on? And that happened in most cases as families, where the husband and the wife and the children were talking to myself and my family, Nikki and my family, or it was happening in a way to where the fathers and I would peel off and have our own fellowship and engagement. The mothers would do the same for Nikki, and the children would often play together, which in a sense, when I think about the mission of the March of Dimes, I would think that would be the desired outcome, is that families could be seen as being happier and healthier with good information. And that was the most powerful part of the mission of that experience for us. But it also continued even after the ambassadorship was over. We kept in touch with a lot of those families, and we got to know the outgoing, ambassador families and the incoming, and we were able to be that bridge that was in some sense able to share what we knew in hopes that they would also have a successful year by going into the program. So I would not take anything away from it at all. And it was just an amazing experience that still lives with us even till today. Cool.
So talk to me about your continued involvement. Like, what are you doing now? How does your, how does your fraternity work with March of Dimes? What is that partnership like? Yeah.
So, the relationship between the March of Dimes and Alpha Phi Alpha is so strong, is vibrant. And I'll tell you, everywhere you look, you cannot forget March of Dimes, because the partnership reminds you. For me, that means that I am tagged in so many different ways. So once you've been ambassador, people know that you are missions oriented, right? So I get chapters from all over the country who are sending me their link to donate, and then I've got my own chapter who's sending me my link, and then as a region we participate. Then there's a sense of competition. And the March of Dimes is not a bad organization to compete against, to have some internal healthy competition that goes on. So when we think about our Project Alpha programs, which seeks to educate at all levels about these interesting statistics and alarming statistics around prematurity, birth inequality that exists within our area, it gives a sense of purpose for organization. And just as we would with all of our partners, we really do take it seriously. I, throughout the months of March and April and May, I get an email, a couple of emails a day regarding the March of Dimes, where someone is raising money, and it's not just those of us within Alpha. I mean, it's externally as well. For those of us who are raising money, which is the biggest part, but then also looking forward to participating in the marches. Obviously, due to the pandemic, it's been somewhat kind of watered down as well in terms of the outward expression of the partnership. But I have no doubt that will continue as well. But I also challenge our members to think beyond just what you can do by raising money, but also for all of our scientists, our medical doctors, is to find a connection and make a connection with their March of Dimes chapters and even their states as well, and learn how they can increase the intensity of the partnership between those two organizations, between Alpha and March of Dimes, and to serve on board. Lead the effort, lead the charge, express it to the world such that other organizations as well will see the benefit, especially those organizations of color, particularly HBCU teams and those Greek letter organizations of the Divine Nine. All of us have a responsibility to make sure that in all forums that we're leveraging that to be able to educate our own. So I have probably somewhat of a bold vision by which, for me, I will continue it. But it does kind of span between using my voice, using my experience, continue to contribute as I may, but then also continue to bring up those stories that we have, such that those who also will have those stories, they will know how common they are, but also how the commonality of it must at some point be non-existent. And that's when I see where our opportunity lies.
All right. So I think last question that I have, Father's Day is coming up. So what does it mean? Talk to me about being a dad and the love that you have for your children.
Oh, wow. You have asked one of the most engaging questions to answer. And what Father's Day would mean for me is because obviously we have three to celebrate. Obviously our son is, in elementary. We've got a daughter in middle school, and then we have the ambassador child, Lauren, who is a rising senior. She's a junior in high school right now. And so Father's Day for me allows me to be able to reflect. And I have to say, include my wife in this as well, because we talk about this all the time. But Father's Day includes really celebrating the first child that made us parents. And for me, Lauren was that first child. And as exciting as it was with her coming into the world, I must admit that excitement has not slowed down. And we can draw a connection between her coming into the world early and in some respects wanting everything in life early. That's a going joke around the house. And I'll tell you, when I look back on where she started and where she is, what I can tell you and what express to the world is when I think back on what was once a 1 pound, 14 ounce child who was fighting for her life the first 6 months of her life and not being sure whether or not her life was going to be sustainable, and not even knowing whether or not she was going to have health issues much later on. And today, to think about her being 17 years old, who at most has some bouts with asthma that is manageable, but who is now also the top sprinter at her high school, who as a freshman in high school broke the record in the 100, the 200, and now the 55 indoor track, and who's now as of today, is the top sprinter in the state of North Carolina in 3A. We're hoping that that doesn't change, but if it does, the fact that she could make it that far is amazing. And to see her on the track and to see her with performing extremely well academically, who loves math, who has enjoyed for the past year or so starting her own business in apparel and loves sewing, but yet alone still enjoying being the bossy big sister that her siblings often call her. That is an example of what it means to go through the ebbs and the flows of uncertainty and not knowing what's going to happen, but still staying on the path. As a father, that is a clear demonstration of what it means to not have all the answers, but being okay with getting the answers along the way, but never stop educating, never stop advocating, but creating that as an example such that others would dare to also follow the same example. There is no book about it. There's no book. I think that there are several books on fatherhood, but that was not one that I would even dare to pick up that would explain what it means to be a father to our three. I would say, though, that a bigger part of it is also leadership. It is leading in every way that matters, what it means to be a father, but that your children are always watching because they are also looking for an example of what it means to be a father. And that is something that will exist forever. And I would imagine that the example that I will show today will continue to be something that exists when I am 100 years from now, when I'm no longer around, that somehow that catches on and it continues to create a legacy for our family, but it can also start a legacy for our future family as well. So I am honored to be a father, but I also am honored to accept the challenges that comes along with being a father, because you're always being seen as a coach, as a teacher. Even when questions are not being asked, you're constantly answering questions every day. And so it is one of the greatest demonstrations of love that any man, I believe, can show to another being, regardless of whether or not they're biological or not, yours or not. That is one of the greatest examples that you can show. And so I take that charge and will continue to lead it as best as I can.
So, like, the weird thing about our job is that we're kind of like frozen in time. So when I hear you say that Lauren is a rising senior, I'm like, she can't be. We just filmed her at the racetrack, like with you, and I'm like, how is this possible? Like we just, I know, and I always, with Jill and Aiden Lamoth, like Aiden is this tiny little kid, but now, yeah, I can't fathom that she's going to be a senior. Then that's amazing, and congratulations on the track records. That's crazy. That's great.
It is. I appreciate that, and I think she's still surprising herself. She's a little short, tiny little thing. She's only like 5'1". So I think a part of why she may be so successful in track is because she's unassuming, but she's a powerhouse. So she's much shorter. So she may not be as intimidating, if you had to race against her. But she somehow is out there, and it's just great to see her enjoy something that she enjoys as well, and to see her just kind of be in the zone. And so we have a little Flojo in the house. So
Right.
It's amazing to see.
Cool. All right, so I'm done with my questions. I think Chris has a couple things he just wants to get from you, and then
Sure.
call it a wrap.
Yeah. If you have a couple minutes, I know we're past time.
I do. I'm
Okay.
good. I blocked
Yeah,
out
just-
a whole hour, so I'm good.
All right, great. Yeah. So basically, yeah. So I know this was great. I mean, we got a lot of really good stuff. I just want to grab a couple kind of shorter, because I know a lot of this we might put some stuff on social media, so we need kind of a more condensed answers possibly. So a couple things I just want to get some sound bites for. And I'm going to go off camera again. So if you could just in a quick soundbite, just say what the Lauren's gestation was and how early she was.
So Lauren was born February 2nd, 2004, but her original due date was May 2nd of 2004. So she was born at 26 weeks, as you can imagine, was extremely early for her.
And then another one was if you can give me in a kind of a tighter, maybe 15 to 20-second sound bite. What was it like when you in the NICU for like the first time?
So being in the NICU was very overwhelming. Of course, once you're being introduced to all of the machines and what they mean when they're beeping, and then but at the same time trying to understand what it means as far as your child and their health. But one of the greatest pieces of advice that we received from a nurse who were really the saving grace, who said that regardless of the machines, regardless of the beeping, regardless of whatever's going on around you with any other patient, if you keep your eye on your child, then your child will speak for themselves. And that was the greatest piece of advice that we even still use today, even throughout raising all of our children, is to learn from them, and they will tell you, nonverbal or not. And so that was an experience.
Great. And then in a once again, just in a tighter soundbite, just give me the nuts and bolts of the relationship between March of Dimes and like Project Alpha.
So the relationship can be as powerful as each chapter or each entity in the locations that they exist can be as powerful as them reaching out to their local March of Dimes representative. I've seen cases to where there's a really good relationship, so they're on cycle together. They know when the March for Babies comes around. They know when Signature Chefs comes around. They know when the events are, and so they're in sync, and they know what those timelines are. And then I've seen cases where there's opportunity to do so, because leadership at the local level is always changing. And so I think it should be somewhat a protocol to always reach out and to make sure that you know what that program can unfold and can be, and to make sure that the engagement kept, because Alpha has the volunteers, March of Dimes has volunteers at a local level, but much smaller, but they can really feed off of each other in terms of education, awareness, and advocacy.
Great. And can you just take I want to have something like start with like March of Dimes and Project Alpha has worked together for I don't know, 40 plus years. It's been a long.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how long the partnership has been?
It has been. So the partnership has been around for the number of years escapes me right now, but I know it has been consistent with other peer organizations like Phi Beta Sigma and Zeta Phi Beta. But the experience goes back specifically with with the Project Alpha. It's been significant enough is because we now see the March of Dimes as the primary source of education. So when we're talking about those key elements that we would want not only just our college members to know, but even those that were mentoring at a high school level, we want them to be educated on sexual responsibility and sexual awareness and premature birth disparities. We want them to be educated on those statistics. And so the March of Dimes has helped our partnership to really build that program out, but to also elevate it in a way to where it's become a way of life for us. No one does it better than the March of Dimes of bringing fresh research and statistics and literature and acumen to our program, and we would not have been able to deliver that program as well as we have to the community without the March of Dimes. So I'm so grateful that we continue that effort, And I know that it's only going to get better because even the missions now could look different just based upon the environments that we have. But Project Alpha it certainly is what it is, in large part due to our partnership with the March of Dimes.
Great. Thank you. That's
All right.
great.
Great. Hopefully, I've given you enough to use without
Oh yeah.
totally messing it up.
No, that was great.
It was so nice to see you, and thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to talk to us. So, and,
My pleasure.
give our
My
love.
pleasure. Well,
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for March of Dimes. Well,
We all are.
I said that part out loud, right? Well, it's
All
great
right.
to see the two of you as well, and thank you for all that you're doing as well to continue. It's great to see longevity and consistency in those who are internally really making these programs really work, so that we can get the best view of what the partnership means and what it can be. So thank you so much as well for your leadership as well.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, we're carrying the torch from the start. So
Certainly will. Certainly will. I have to send you some pictures and photos of some videos of Lauren at some point so that you can see her in action on the track field.
yeah, that would be great.
That would be great actually if you could do it sooner, because then we can maybe use it in this. I think that would be good, nice. If it's okay to use it. You can find them.
Absolutely. I have just the video for you, so be on the lookout.
All right, cool. Yeah, because I would love to start doing like a "Where Are They Now" kind of thing with some of our past ambassadors. So that would be amazing.
I have been asking for that for years to do a Where Are They Now?
Yeah, let's do it. All right.
Yeah. I'm going to send you some video. I have that over to you momentarily.
Okay, cool.
Great.
All right.
Alrighty.
Thank you so much. It was so nice.
Bye bye.
Good to see you. Bye.